Hi, folks. It's Jimmy Kino here, your
Hello, my name
local
is.
Greenfield,
Oh, can you
Massachusetts
you
pain
speaking?
in the
You can
butt.
go.
We're here to hold the
No, I saw
CSO
Sandy
Homeless Shelter at
Kosterman
One
had
Arch
her
Place
hand up
accountable for
before
not
me.
providing the
Yeah, I'll
services they
catch her
promise to their guests.
this will be.
Let's make sure shelters aren't exploiting people for
Hi, my
money.
name is
Thanks for
Wahab
being
Haas. I live
here,
on
and
Davis
let's get it
Street.
started.
I'm here on in the capacity as a elected representative. I am a counselor at large in Greenfield, and I'm coming to speak here because multiple constituents have expressed their support for the concerns that Stephanie and her partner also have. Um, I would just like to give some background as to my interactions with CSO, the clients who reside there. Um, I operate a couple family businesses in the town of Greenfield for a number of years. One of them being a convenience store, which is frequented by many of the residents who actually live there. So in the daytime, when they're saying, hey, they leave in the daytime, they're coming to places like myself to buy smokes, to buy Arizonas, buy Little Debbie's, to buy a bag of chips. They're doing that. So I have constant interaction, and they're my main customers. I have constant interaction with those people. So I see them and I know them for years. I see them when they're not doing so well. I see them when they are doing a little bit better. And so that's kind of the background. Additionally, soon after I was elected this past November, in January, one of my customers, um, who was living at CSO, at that CSO shelter, came to me and was like, "Hey, kid, I'm having some troubles at the shelter. Can you? He doesn't quite know the intricacies of local government, and I don't know if I do either yet. But he said, "Hey, can you help me out with something?" And I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And he was like, "I think I'm going to be kicked out of the shelter." At that time, when he reached out to me, he was like, "I'm living there with my brother, who is a disabled vet, and I am his primary care provider, have been so for many years. Now, mind you, these people obviously are at the shelter when they are probably at one of the lowest points in their lives. They are dealing with a host of issues, mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, a host of other issues. So they're not in their best shape that they've ever been in life. So they come to me and he said, I think I'm going to be kicked out. And I was like, why is that? What'd you do? And he said, well, I had some complaints about the quality of life and care that what my brother was receiving. His brother is on a host of medication. And I said, well, but did you file some paperwork? Did you make some formal complaints? And he's like, yeah, I did. And I'm now being harassed and targeted for doing so. And it seems like as if I'm going to be kicked out. I said, well, that doesn't seem right. This is an organization that is, helping, they're not, they're not causing harm. What do you mean? A few weeks go by and he comes back in and he says, well, yeah, guess what? It's happened. I was like, what do you mean, Chris? What's happened? So yeah, I'm living in my car now, no longer there. He said there was an incident where I was making a complaint about something, and there we had a verbal argument, and they kicked me out. And I was just shocked. I was like, what? Dang. Like, this is somebody who is not a statistic to me. This is somebody who is not just an anecdote like he is to you right now, but somebody who came into my shop every day to get the cheapest drink possible because that's all he can afford, but he comes in multiple times a day. And I was shocked by that. And he said, hey, is there something you can do? And I was like, look, I'll look into it. I just got elected. I don't know what the process. I don't know what I can do. Um, and so I tried to reach around. Tried to pull up my magnifying glass, and I'm like, hey, what departments does this relate to? What can we actually do? And we managed to get them a hearing at the Human Rights Commission. And essentially what that did was that was a platform to be like, okay, these are the things that are happening, right? And at this point, weeks have passed by, and Chris was I hope he's okay with, I mean, well, he's testified publicly before. But Chris is not the only one who's come to me saying, hey, these are the discrepancies that are happening at the shelter. This is what they say going to provide. This is what they're getting federal funding, state funding, and city funding to provide versus what is actually happening. So photographic evidence of their food, lack of sanitation, a lack of actual support and resources when it comes to job training, stable housing, all these things, mental health support. And so I have been receiving this, right? But in an informal manner through tags and, people coming and talking to me while I'm at the register selling Snickers bars and Arizonas. And so I said, let's bring this to the Human Rights Commission. Get to the Human Rights Commission, that,
They say what they have to, and I testify on their behalf. There's a bunch of them, they don't have time. They're dealing with a bunch of other stuff, and they don't want to come to a public body. I was elected to do so. Again, which I'm doing today. So I said, okay, yeah, we raised all the issues. After which the Human Rights Commission decided that what we're going to have is an investigation in the form of a walkthrough of the CSO shelter. Myself, the chair of the Human Rights Commission, and the mayor went in, and what I thought was going to be them answering the questions as to, hey, you say you're doing this,
what is it that you're doing? Because I'm getting conflicting evidence. Not providing a hot breakfast, not providing adequate meals, not providing sanitation. They certainly are not providing adequate and enough casework. Certainly are not providing adequate and enough mental health support. And that is the reason why everything seems so vague. Their answers to, and this is not homeless people are bad, let's stop, let's exterminate. That's the straw man argument. The argument that I'd like to present today is that multiple constituents have come up to me and said, hey, they are not doing their job. They're getting funding to do so. They're not doing, many people who are in there, right, who are working in that shelter in Greenfield and in that organization must have good hearts because they've chosen this way of life to help people at their worst part in time. Right. But the organization is getting funding to do so. A lot of funding to do so. Our tax dollars are going to this. And by our taxes, I don't just mean the federal budget. I mean this specific city's budget has set aside dollars for them multiple times. And when I see my constituents come to me and say, hey, I'm not even getting a hot breakfast, what the hell is going on? It concerns me. It concerns me that not only are they they have subpar conditions in a specific place, and that they are expanding. And then on top of that expansion, they are moving into a temporary shelter, right? Which, ask any businessman, ask any rational person who's ever dealt with permits and all of these things. You don't spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to renovate a place and just abandon it. You will continue to use it. So that's not going to be temporary. We all know that. But the point being, they're not doing their job. And that is what that is my take, that is my concern. They are not doing their job. And who is the one, what department is the one that is supposed to tell them, supposed to actually do a checks and balances on, you're saying, so all these things that they say, oh, we're providing nutritional support. Who is supposed to say, okay, we don't just take your word for it, because I, as an elected representative, have evidence, photographic evidence, anecdotal evidence of people who have come up to me and showed me it's not true. And then when I went to the shelter, it's not true. I could not find a real schedule of any of their educational programs. I could not find an itinerary which said on Wednesdays we have job support, we have job seeking support at this time. And these are the slots, and this is what's happened in the past. These are the amount of residents who have signed up for this in the past. And this is how we try to increase that enrollment. Oh, this is the certificate. We tried to, I don't know, like, we're not stupid. I've been through college. I mean, many of us are educated. You know, even if, and I was a tutor for a while, even if something simple as building a resume, right? And if you have a course on that, how many times a week does that happen? How many times a month does that happen? Who teaches it? You will not find those specifics because those specifics do not exist. Those programs do not exist. And what you were right, they wake up and for the most part, they leave and do what it is that they need to do. And then they come back and they sleep. So this is not my concern is that a organization which is providing subpar care is being let off the hook because what a lot of us do not have interaction with the homeless. We are concerned about the housing crisis. We're concerned about our homeless population. And so we just see them as a savior. And then we can, you know, just sit back and relax and be like, okay, something is being done. I would like something to be done. But it's like, you know, there's a saying, I don't know if I can translate it well in English, but it's like, you see maggots in your food, you can't eat it. I see it right there. I can't. You know, if I didn't know there were maggots in food, I'd be eating that. I'd be eating it up. But I see it upon close inspection. And multiple people come up to me and show me, hey, this is what an average meal looks like. Hey, this is what a day looks like. There is no set schedule for the educational facilities that they're saying that they're providing. There's no such thing. There's no curriculum. There is no curriculum because they would have presented it to you right here and said, we are an educational facility, and that's the permit that we pulled for this temporary shelter. This is our itinerary. We meet on Wednesdays at this time for this specific cause. This is how many people met last Wednesday, or 2 weeks ago, or last month, or the 6 months ago. No such thing exists. And so essentially what is happening is that people are being brought there. They do not get adequate support. They're just being provided a bed. And I would argue they're not being provided enough nutritional care as well. I have seen the meals, and dear God, I've lived in poverty. It is absolutely abysmal. A cereal bar is not adequate.
Can we try to wrap it up a little bit? I think you're doing an excellent job, but the hour is growing late. Thank you.
Yes, I absolutely understand. And thank you for, you know, holding this forum. But I would like to just say it is our job to implement the law, to follow the law, and equally as important, because we live in a democracy, to listen to our constituents, to listen and follow and carry out the will of the people whom we actually serve. That is the spirit of democracy. And so I am here on behalf of people who have lived in the shelter, people who have been kicked out in the middle of winter,
Please.
in one of the coldest months in New England.
Please.
And